So welcome to the Facebook Live. My name's Lottie and I am here every Tuesday, the last Tuesday of every month, talking about topics that I'm interested in that get brought into my therapy room, and hopefully couples enjoy what I'm talking about, but also therapists that join us here. So this is recorded and people will be joining me as I speak. So I'm just going to let somebody in. And tonight we're going to be talking about part 2 of women, affection and love. So last month it was men, affection and love. So this is the part 2. We're going to be talking about women tonight. And I was going to have a guest speaker, but unfortunately they've had to pull out. So anybody that joins us, I hope if there's any questions or anything that you need to ask me along the way, or any comments you want to make along the way, they will be most grateful. Thanks so much. So welcome. Hi, Janet. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good, good. So as you know, Janet, this is recorded. So this is going to go onto the Facebook Live. So I'm going to deep dive into what I've been thinking about when we talk about women, love and affection. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about that? It was really interesting last month to take a look at where men are. And obviously my guest speaker was Elliot Burgess from a man's point of view about affection and love and what they're asking for within the partnership. But my brief tonight, and this is what seems to be coming into the therapy room, and this is why I wrote this brief down, was actually, why do women feel like they're sacrificing themselves, like children or careers or sex life? The other question was, why is sex off the table? So I'm seeing many, many couples now who they come into the therapy room and it will mostly be the women saying, I don't think there's a need for sex anymore. I'm not sure why we need to do that. So it's about being able to navigate what that looks like for the whole process of the relationship. And also I want to navigate that feminine energy whilst feeling so much like under pressure. So I watched a Instagram highlight the other day, and it was a family, a mother and a father. They were in the house and the baby started. And this is not detrimental to men, but this is what I want to point out about women, to talk about how we're sometimes seen as the place, okay, and holding that space for our family. So the father did hear the child cry, but he just thought, I've got a window of opportunity, I'm going to go and mow the grass. So off he went. The mother come out and then she was saying, actually, where's my husband? The child was still crying. So she went to actually sort out the child. Now, when the husband come back, she said, where were you? And he said, I saw a window of opportunity. I thought I'd do the grass. It's a job that I needed to do. And he said, but why did you think I was going to look after the baby? Why am I the default place? Why am I the place that actually it feels like? And the word they used was mental load. And the couples that I'm seeing at the moment, it feels sometimes like there's a mental load. Now, that might not be for the woman all the time, but we're just talking about women tonight, okay? Last week, we talked with Elliot about the mental load for men, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. But the mental load was actually, it's an expectation that I will hold that space for that crying child and feed them and put them back down, and then I can go off and do something else. So there wasn't a discussion by these two people that actually said, what should we do? Who's going to do what? So the mental load that sometimes, and I hear it a lot in the room, is saying, I feel like I'm sacrificing myself. I feel like I've sacrificed my career. I feel like they never say we decided to have children. They say, I had the children and I feel like I'm caught up in this motherhood and I've lost my way. And I wish that I could start thinking about my career and my wants, needs, and all of that. Okay, so we're going to be looking at that tonight and how that plays out in my head in therapy, because I don't really like the word sacrifice. I'm hoping at some point within a relationship that there's a discussion about, shall we have children? Should we not have children? How would that look if we had children? And we all know as soon as we have children, it's never what we thought it was going to be. It's much harder. However, there must have been a discussion in the very beginning. But as the children grow up, where's the responsibility lying? Does the guy feel that he's got to be the total provider? I think in this day and age, that doesn't exist as much. I think both people are working. However, if the partner, the female, decides to stay at home, there must have just been a discussion about that. And don't forget, there's also men that stay at home to be house husbands, and the wife goes off to work. and this isn't just cisgender, this is any couple that's together, male or female. So we've got to look at that process of actually, what mental load have I decided to take on, or does it feel like it's been given to me? And now I'm feeling like I'm sacrificing myself, and I'm feeling like hard done by, not getting my needs met, not being seen within the relationship. So when we talk about sacrificing ourselves, even though I'm going to point out now, I'm not that keen on that word, I'll be honest, what are we actually saying? So what does that seem like from both perspectives? Sacrificing ourselves means I've given up something. I've chosen not to give it up, but I've given up something. And we might have in the beginning made that decision and then gone, this is not what I thought it would be like, whether that's motherhood, whether that's leaving a career that you absolutely loved, and you're choosing to be mother or father, okay? But we've got to actually think about what the loss is. When we go through that period, and you might be happy to be that mum sitting in that place, and the dad or the partner is going out to work and bringing in the bacon, as they say, what's the loss that you're feeling later on down the line, okay? Because if we don't talk about that, we need to make sure that we do. So one of the things that goes from a relationship is communication. When we start being resentful, or we have contempt, or we have all the John Gottmans, you know, criticizing, stonewalling, defensiveness, and then contempt, hopefully we don't get there, we start to actually think about the things that I've lost. Okay, not the things that I've gained, the lovely little children and the house that I've made, the empire that we've built. What we're looking for is, what have I missed out on? What have I not achieved in the lifetime that I have here? Okay, and you might find that the partner's not feeling that they've achieved, they don't really like their job either, but they felt like they had to keep the money coming in. So I always say, you know, if one person's not happy, it would be really weird if the other one was whistling and singing and dancing. So if there's a discord within the relationship, there would be a discord within the relationship. So there was a lovely, I'm not sure about social media that much, but a meme, I think it was called, and it was about how do we know, or how do we know about children being happy? You know, what's our gauge for children being happy? And what it said is when the mother's happy. If we've got a happy mother, okay, then we will be more likely to see children that feel a little bit more sustained, or stable, or safe, or whatever the words were, okay? And I think that's quite true, because, you know, that nurture, that mother, that part of us that we can bring to the table if you choose to have children, can be very much about how much are we giving? How much are we receiving from for the relationship? Now, just staying with children for a minute, what I notice with my couples very, very much is that they are sacrificing their relationship to be more loving with the children. And we have to remember that it's a different love altogether, okay? Our role as parents, both parents, is to bring up that child in the best way that we can from the family of origin that we've been brought from. So hopefully intergenerational changes will be made, that what we didn't like for ourselves, it will be different for our children. But what we're thinking about is being able to parent in a way that actually gives us enough communication between each other, so that neither of us are feeling like one's sacrificing more than the other. And when we have that situation, there's got to be a discussion at some point to say to the other person, it's my turn. Okay, so the partner might say, actually, I've done all the parenting, I've done all the bringing up and this sort of thing. Actually, then we need to say, okay, what do you need? What do you need to fulfill your dream? You know me, I talk about differentiation all the time. You're an I first before you're a we. How can you put together the I of you, and be able to then process that as a we? So if somebody's had the mother role, say, for 15 years, and then suddenly says, I want to actually have a career, we need to be able to facilitate that in some way, shape, form. That might be a job change for the other person, and it might be actually, how do we bring that online? For me, this does tap into the relationship creed, talking about how safe do I feel in this relationship, how spontaneous can I be in this relationship, how significant am I in this relationship. But what I want to do tonight is really home in on the relationship creed as an I. Okay, so last week we briefly touched on that with men, but I want to touch on how safe do you feel as a person in your own right, as a female? How are you leading your life in a safe way? Okay, are you feeling quite vulnerable? You're not being listened to? You feel like that there's something about yourself that's not being fulfilled? Spontaneous, are you being as funny as you were always? So my client list is very much about, I wrote it down to somebody today, it was very much about the past you, the here and now you, and the new. Okay, because we are living in the past, most of us, from our childhood, and trying to navigate triggers and everything. And the person that you are with now and you met and you've made a life with, you've leaned into, and who have you become? Because a lot of people wonder who they are now whilst they're in that relationship. Who have I become? Very, very poignant, strong statement that is. Who have I become while I'm with you, and vice versa? But also, how do you want to look now? You know, what's the newness of you? What can we look at as a female to be able to encounter all the things that we want to do? Because I see our children as gifts. Okay, they're not supposed to stay. They're supposed to fly, and we're supposed to give them the license to fly and nurture and do what they need to do outside of us. And then we need to find out who we are again. So lots of women talk about, I don't know my identity, I don't know who I am now. So even though I believe that children are very important, when you have children, we mustn't forget our partnerships. So partnerships are being neglected because we are putting all our love or eggs in the basket for our children. So going back to actually what I was talking about, this sacrificing process, I've sacrificed so much for this relationship. I want us to change that word if we can, and I've not thought of another word, but I want us to say, what have I given up? It feels like I've let go of, that shows me my identity, my career, my adventure, my excitement, my pathway, my roadmap. What was it before you met this person that you're currently with? What would it have been? What would it have looked like? Because that's not gone. It's just that when you get into a relationship, a lot of people call the word compromise, which means it feels like we've given up something. I like to go, did we negotiate it enough? And now do we feel resentful because we didn't negotiate it enough? If we let go of stuff because the other person had more of a dream and we followed that dream, it will come to a place where you go, I want to fulfill my dream now. So it's actually looking about what am my way forward. And this includes, I've put here tonight, you know, children, careers, and sex life. Because I don't know what it is at the moment, but there's a lot of people pulling away from sex lives, and we've got sex lives, you know, sex all over wherever we look, and we're not even allowed to spell it properly on the the tech places, which is very bizarre for me. But actually, we give up our sex lives, and I that really concerns me, because people who work with me know that I talk about friendships and intimacy and sex. I see that as a relationship. Okay, this is my take on it. It's a friendship. You start off that friendship, you then go to be intimate, which is holding hands, having hugs and re-hugging. It's almost like a bit of telepathy. I get to know you just enough so I know when actually it would be nice for you to cuddle me, and vice versa. And also spontaneity, doing something that's unusual, doing something that's a bit different sometimes. Okay, don't always do the same thing. And really thinking about, why is it that I'm coming away from sex? So when we first meet, we've got the loved up stage, okay, the limerence, which is all crazy and knickers on backwards, don't think about anybody else, forget about work, who cares about it? And then suddenly you come to that place of the power struggle where you go to yourself, I need to work out whether this person's for me. And that's the place where we get the fear. Somebody pulls away, usually one person at a time, and then they start to think about, where's that person going? What they're trying to do is work out whether they want to be with you on a permanent basis. And that's a normal progression of where we come from. Then we go, when we get in the relationship, we go to the real deal. Okay, we start to sink into each other and be where we need to be. Now, this is not longevity relationships I'm talking about. So if you've been married 25 years or plus, there will be moments of your relationship sort of sinking down into maybe a platonic, a little bit too platonic, really. And we've got to spark that back up again. But I'm actually seeing couples who've probably been together less than 5 years, and they're still not in that place of existing in a way that actually fulfills not only health, but the wealth that the sex life can bring you, as in closeness, I'll say it in a minute, connectivity, the dopamine levels, the oxytocin, the vasopressin. After sex, we start to go, do you want a cup of tea, or shall I get you a piece of toast? We are more involved with our partner because the part of us is very, very close to that partner at that time, and that lasts up to 14 days. It doesn't dissipate because our bodies go into resolution. It actually lasts for much, much longer than we realize. And also, we are sitting in a place of being able to reconnect. So I'm very much about one orgasm to the next. When we're actually resolution and it's gone away, those feelings will dissipate, okay, day after day after day. But actually what we're doing is making sure we keep the intimacy flowing. So the touch of the shoulder, so the little wink of the eye, so the I see you there, so the hug without actually asking for a hug. So we're building that warmth, which is absolutely what women need if they're going to be whatever they need to be in the bedroom. And if you notice, I didn't say whatever they need to be for the other person. Yeah, so it's about what they need to be for them. So this part of us as women need to have that sort of continual leading up and going towards. Now, I'm not saying every single time. I'm a great believer in all different kinds of sex. Okay, so spontaneity. There won't be any much warmth with doing that. Let's get on with it. This is great. Let's do this. There might be love making. There might be fucking, there might be whatever it is that you feel that you need within. But I would like for couples to have a little bit of a cheese board, if you want to call it that, of different cheeses to actually think, right, okay, this is something that we can work on together. Now, it worries me that actually there is some men that I see, but predominantly women, they're actually going, I don't really need this anymore in my life. Now, if we've got ailments or disability or anything that might stop that, absolutely get that. If we're talking about asexual, absolutely get that. But if we're talking about a couple that actually don't do this anymore, then I'm looking more at the connection and the health things as well. Okay, so sometimes we're looking at it's all a muscle. So for women, we get atrophy. If we don't keep using this muscle, we get very, there's a lovely oil out at the moment called Victoria oil. I don't know whether anybody's heard of it. It's absolutely gorgeous, really, really lovely. You massage it in, just keeps that sort of itching or soreness away. It's fantastic. But also for men, use it, play with it, appropriately, and use that muscle, because actually, there's anorgasmia, where they can't come, there's ED, erectile dysfunction. So these things, as we get older, will change. Okay, so you might not be doing, what do you call it? Ceiling stuff anymore. That's fine. Okay, but we still need to keep that connection. I'm very much about the connection of sex, and it doesn't matter how that looks. For me, it's very much about being able to impart that in some way, shape, or form. If somebody says, I don't want to have sex anymore, and they come to my therapy room, we need to really dig deep and go, what's that about? Okay, that might be past trauma in some way, shape, form that's got nothing to do with this relationship. It might be actually body changes that actually don't suit whatever's the sex is. So sometimes women don't go back to the sex that they actually don't enjoy. Okay, and we don't have a great education sexually in England. So I do believe that sometimes, and as I call it, roll on, roll off sex can be okay for some people, but our arousal circuits will really get weak when we don't add something else, whether that's a toy, whether that's something different, whether that's different words, different language, different touch. We need to make sure that we are doing that again and again and again to heighten it, just to heighten it every now and then. Otherwise, the arousal circuits just flatline, and we don't want to go back to what we don't like. Okay. So I didn't mention menopause as well. So I read years ago, and I don't know where it come from, but women change. One woman changes 7 times within a relationship, and men change twice. And I don't think it's competition. I think it's because we have periods, we have growth, as in different parts of our body, we have menopause, we have childbirth. We're all internal, if you think about it. So we have a lot of things that sometimes go on for us urinary tract infections that last for a long, long time. And I'm not saying guys don't get this. So we get menopause, they get andropause. Okay, so they get loss muscle mass, they get hair loss, or similar, I guess, to us, but in a different way. And it's never recognized that men go through some sort of pause in their life, which they start to revalue ourselves. We sometimes know we're going through the menopause, but we actually don't reevaluate ourselves at that time because it's too much. We go on HRT and then we go, once I've got through the menopause, I'll see what I'm like the other end. Okay, and our libido changes massively through menopause. It actually becomes non-existent, and it actually has not disappeared or gone. It's there. It's not being triggered in the right way. That's all that is, okay? And I make it sound like it's all that is. The menopause for some people can be really, really awful. The last thing you want to do is have sex. But I always say to my clients, be mindful that sex doesn't mean penetrative sex. It can mean actually, how can we play with each other? So it could be lots of foreplay. Okay. We talk about sensate focus from where I come from, so psychosexual. We talk about being able to be sensual instead of sexual sometimes. If we take sex off the table and we don't have any sex, we can heighten how we feel about each other. So skin to skin is so sensual. Being able to lay next to your partner, just skin to skin. Being able to get your two fingers and just draw them like you've got a pencil in your hand and go all through the lovely curves and parts of their body, just laying together side by side and doing that on the side of their body is such a wonderful thing to do. And I saw a guy tonight, an individual, and he just said, all I want is nakedness. Just want to lay naked with my partner. And it sounds like it's not a lot to ask, but if the sex is turned off and the communication isn't there, to ask for that is quite a big deal. Yeah. So how can we support, as therapists, how can we support our couples, and how can couples start to talk to each other about the discord they have with each other, about one person seems to be getting the life they want and the other person feels like they're bogged down on the other side? How could we start that conversation with each other? Interesting enough, before I come on here, I was listening to something. I'm going off piste, which I always do, but I was listening to something where women are asking their men to be very vulnerable, be more emotionally connected to me, be more vulnerable with me, open yourself up. And the guy was saying, I don't want it completely, because if I do that completely, I'm offloading all my guy stuff onto my wife. He's trying to create this place. So he says that I don't want to ruin the peace that I come home to protect. And there was something about that gave me, he said, I go to my tribe, which is his guy friends, and I offload all the, all the sort of guy stuff that I need to. I wouldn't come home and say that to my partner, but women are looking more so when we've been 15 plus years with somebody for an emotional connection. It's more needed than it's ever been, because we are not looking for you are the one. We are looking for, are you the person that I can rely on as I get older? Yeah. So I want people to really hear that. Are you my person? So I've got, sometimes couples go, I don't want to be a carer to you. I don't want to be your mother. I don't want to be, whatever that role is that you're playing with each other, they don't want to be that. So that's why we're looking at longevity relationships and why the sex is changing, why the sacrifices feel like they're there. So my question was, how do we support couples in therapy? And it's about being able to heighten the communication between both of them. So the John Gottman is talking about, are you too critical in the relationship? That kills a sex life. Are you stonewalling? You're not around to even be bothered to talk to me about it. Are you defensive when I bring up the subject? And actually, because we're not getting our needs met, are we starting to be contemptuous with each other? I don't really like who you are. So the John Gottman script is so descriptive as an I and as a we. It could be really, really useful for practitioners and definitely for couples to look at, how am I behaving? So we find it hard to talk to our partners about money, and then we wonder why people are really scared to talk about things with sex, because it causes a discord within the relationship. Do we have to talk about this? Do we have to do it? And actually, if you end up not doing choose to not do it, that's entirely up to you. But what I want women to do is actually conversation, and we are up for talking. Okay, but when we don't hear what we want to hear from the other side, we then start to shut down. Okay, because we're talking about rejection here, we're talking about abandonment here. Yeah, am I attractive enough? Why is it that you don't want to have sex with me? Is it because you don't love me anymore? We personalize it massively. Sometimes people come into my therapy room and it's because the guy has had one incident of erectile dysfunction and now his brain is going, I'm not going to be able to perform. So he stayed right away from it. He's gone, no, I better not bother, because actually there's going to be a ruction between us, and it's going to be awkward afterwards. Okay, they think they've got erectile dysfunction, but they actually haven't. It's just a performance process that they've gone through that hasn't worked, probably once or twice, and then they start to do that in their head. So with women, we might personalize it if we're not feeling like our partner's coming towards us and feeling like that actually there's a why am I not being made having attention and being noticed within the relationship. Again, talking about the creed, the relationship creed, Tony Robbins, how significant am I in this relationship? Okay, so let me just go through that very quickly, okay, so people know what I'm talking about. The relationship creed is a process of primal and spiritual. Okay, and usually we've got two of them and we need to enhance the others. So the first one is, how safe do I feel in this relationship? And that would be spiritually, emotionally, financially, physically. How safe do I feel? And a lot of couples don't feel that safe. Okay, because you've got two people having two different opinions, two different ways of life, two cultural upbringings that will have different ways of thinking about money, thinking about sex. So we don't sometimes feel safe. The only way to feel safe again is to have that conversation. The other one is spontaneity. When we don't feel safe, we can't be funny. Okay, we can't be laughing because the other person goes, this is really serious. We're not getting on. And I don't know why you're grinning or laughing. Okay, so that we really don't find that spontaneity available to us as much as we'd like it to be. Then we've got significance. How important am I to you? Okay, so family of origin, sometimes we can be the neglected child or the abandoned child, and we come into a relationship and we can feel that again and again and again. That might be our stuff. So as the differentiated I, what's my process? What's happening to me? Am I projecting it onto my partner that he's doing this to me? Okay, we need to do I first, and then we go, actually, in the relationship, it feels the same. I'm being triggered by their behavior. Never automatically think it's the other person's fault. Always go to I first of all. Then we've got love and connection. So how do I want to be loved, and what connection I've got? The question I always ask my couples is, how loving are you? I want my partner to be loving. I want him to give me this or her this or whatever it might be. And actually, first question is, how loving are you? Are you holding a control or a power dynamic that feels that actually you're not as loving as you think you are? Maybe there's not a door to open that they can come towards you. And what's the connection on many levels? Yeah, on the money level, on the sex level, on the physical level. What is that? Where are you with that? The other one is growth, which I think is so important. As an individual, you are just you first. And how are you growing? If you had to write a script for yourself, okay, what would it look like? Adventure, holidays, meeting new people, excitement, kink, BDSM, shadow side of you, trying to work it out who you are, both sides of it, whatever it might be, that would be your list. And then your partner would have their list. And that list needs to come together. What can we share from our list? What does that look like? We've all got our own list. When we get into a partnership, we start thinking to ourselves, actually, I'm going to give myself over to the other person. And that might be an attachment process, an anxious avoidant process going on. You want to be in it, but you're actually avoiding some of the emotions that come towards you. I'm noticing I'm talking about men and women all the time. Okay, I'm trying to focus on women. If you've got any questions, please put them in the questions. That's absolutely fine. So I believe, and this is not detrimental, that we have brains like elephants. We never forget. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's really useful in different places. But when I work with clients, I find that they will sit in a place and go, 1999, when I was having the baby, you were late. and I did the first 10 to 15 minutes of contractions without you doing the breathing at Lamar's class. That's like we don't forget. But what happens is they get accumulated. Resentments get accumulated, okay? And what we're doing is there's a resentment actually happening in the here and now. And then we do that with them and we go right the way back to talking about resentments. When you let me down, when you weren't there, when I felt alone, when I felt abandoned, okay? Now, don't forget, as I've said, some of this is not theirs. They're triggering us in some way, but it's our stuff, yeah? How do we navigate resentments for couples who are holding them so tight? Yeah, because I believe I do homework. I say to them, what are the 3 most relevant resentments that you have that you need to talk about? And this is not easy work because these are resentments that actually have gone deep. Yeah, we've not forgotten them because I'll tell you, people write them down really, really quickly. And what we're doing is actually we'll do one each a week because there's such a lot of dialogue that comes out of that. And I'm sure, you know, when this goes out live and when my couples look at it and my therapists look at it, they will be sitting there going, oh yeah, I remember that resentment. Yeah, that would be the one I would write down. And they're cyclical. The resentment starts to take on a different story, but it's the same resentment. We just add something to it or the story changes slightly. But actually, if we look at it, there will be 3 that will be more distinctive than the others. And what we're doing is actually, as a woman, we're going to be sitting in that place of hurt. Okay, I'm not saying men aren't, but we're talking about women tonight, that they will be sitting in that place of hurt. They will totally remember the feeling in their body of when that person wasn't there. Yeah. So we've got some nodding heads. I can nod my head. I can think of some as well. Okay. Because just a minute ago, I said, when we get into a relationship, we're looking for not the one. Nobody can be your one. Okay. They can't. They can't be your confidant and your friend and your lover and your, you know, playmate and your, you know, photography student person that comes with you when you do photography or your fishing trip person. They can't be everything to you. Relationships are looking for, are you my person? For me, that sounds different. Are you there when I need you? And that's in sickness and health, whether you're married or not. Are you there when I need you the most? And there's a lot, mortality has come into the therapy room more than ever when we're looking at relationships that are 25 years plus. And actually, what do I want for the next section of the life that I am? What does that look like? Will there be illness in it? Will there be fun in it? Will there be sex in it? These are all things to navigate. Where are we now? What do we need to put into the relationship? So I wanted to talk about feminine energy. I'm a Tantra practitioner. Okay, I'm a non-touch practitioner. So I take my clients on a journey of being able to do sensuality, masculine and feminine energy, which we have both, and being able to work on that strength. So if we talk about feminine, sometimes people can see that energy as like the surrender or the weak or the lack of, and it's not at all. We are very much powerful in a positive way. Okay, so the embracing of confidence for me with women is very, very important. How do we get women to be more confident? So when I think of seminars I've done or retreats that I've done, and I've done like a inquiry form, you know, what do you think of yourself? It is always so negative. That feminine energy that I want to come through is like, you know, I wish I was this or I wish I was that. And I used to be quite confident, but now I don't feel I am. I would wish I was a bit more sexy. There's a lot of negativity that we are doing ourselves. No one's actually saying it to us. We're doing it ourselves. So it's almost like that monkey brain going like this. And there's a part of us that's actually voiceless. There's nothing coming out of here at all. It's like, yeah, but if only you were this or only you were that. Okay. So this week I've had clients, you know, the core beliefs. So when you think about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, that we sort of talked about the core belief, and it was I'm unlovable. That's huge. Okay. And we all have a core belief. I know mine is I'm not good enough. Okay, which has no evidence. Okay. But it's the little me coming to the adult world going, that's true because I was told it. It's not true now. So the unlovable person is got to find that confidence to be able to bring that forward. So what blocks us from allowing the feminine energy to come in? I always believe that women are trying to be much tougher and sometimes emasculating men to become tougher. And actually, I believe that actually we're already powerful, just being women. Okay, you don't have to agree or disagree with me. This is my thought process. I think we're already powerful. Okay, and I don't mean I guess I'm talking about empowerment. I don't want to be powerful over anybody else, but I think we're already there. Okay, but I think the self-talk needs to be much more positive. Okay, so when I think about my daughter Fee, when we talk about mindset work and we talk about how we master the mindset and how we can go through life thinking negative things, and actually the coaching world would go cancel, cancel, cancel. And my daughter taught me that, and I tell you, it really works. So if I wake up in the morning, I go, God, I'm going to be really tired all day. I go cancel, 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 and it sends a different brainwave right the way through my body. I get up and I'm more energized and I'm different. And I want women to really take that on board, that actually what you think, first of all, the meta thinking is not what we have to think. Meta thinking is rethinking. Yeah. I do a lot of emotional regulation. So we go through life hearing lots of things, okay, from societal processes to family of origin process about us. You know, you're always the jokey one, you're always the clown, you're always the serious one, you're always this. They are just messages that you were given, okay, whether they were true or not. You were shy, were you? Or it's just that you were told you were shy and you didn't know what to say after that. So these messages that come towards us, I want women to really branch out and go, right, okay, who am I as an individual and how am I acting within my relationship? How can I make that different? So we're not going to be caught talking about I've sacrificed myself. Okay. We're going to be talking about how, where I am now, talk about the feelings that have actually got me to think about what I've missed out on, what I would like to capture back then, that we chose to have children, let's say, or we chose to give up my career, or you had a conversation about it. It doesn't automatically happen, okay? Why are we still sitting in that place of sacrifice for women? You don't say men sacrifice. Very rarely do we say men sacrifice, but we say that sentence with us quite a lot. And I want us to try and get away from that. I want us to try and get away from actually how good it is to have an intimate relationship with the person that you're with. It's sacred. Tantra, you know, embodies that sacredness about being able to be with that partner, being able to sit in that place and be able to, you're more than friends. So you've got a group of friends and that's what they are, but you are more than that to each other. And there's something about that for me, being able to sit in that sacred place with your partner. Okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning just to make sure. Yeah. So yeah, Tantra can be really useful when we're working with couples, because my role is to be able to get people to actually find some intimacy again, okay? Then be able to navigate sex, whatever that looks from. But actually Tantra gives you that element of being a little bit more. Yeah. So when I go to a yoga shala where I live, and we set the room up and we give them the opportunity to really eye-to-eye contact. When was the last time our couples looked at each other? Even in the therapy room, there's little glances, isn't there, every now and then? But actually, it's not sustained. But in Tantra, we hold that space for each other. And you know, rightly or wrongly, some people don't like it. God and goddess, absolutely love it. I love it. I love the way that that's put towards. I know a lot of people don't like the word God for men, but that process of being able to surrender yourselves to each other, okay? And that's what I want to talk about, vulnerability within relationships. We're going to go on to that in a minute. If we allow ourselves to be vulnerable within a relationship, we can get closer. I talked to you about that meme I saw, that Instagram I saw about the guy saying, I don't want to offload, you know, the mental load that I have to be the provider and the protector. I'm not going to go and do that with my wife. That makes sense to me, or my partner. That makes sense, okay? Because they are that innate part of them wants to stay, they're not closed, but they're actually saying, I want to still be that person for myself and my family. Women like to talk, most, I'm not generalizing, like to talk. And what we're looking for is a partner that can actually facilitate that with us, okay? And being able to review what we say. I don't know about you, but sometimes I will say lots of things and then I go, that didn't come out very well. Can I say that again? And it's being able to be curious. The vulnerability is about being able to be curious. So relationships sometimes at the moment is when something's said, it's jumped on with defensiveness straight away because the other person is so triggered by different things in their past that they're already going, well, do we need to talk about that? And did we talk about that twice already? We don't need the defensiveness or the criticism. What we need is curiosity. Just allow yourselves to sit in this place of tell me more. What is it that you're trying to tell me? And if I don't get what you're telling me, tell me in a different way. Because I don't know about you, but I love talking, like talking to everyone. I'm one of my on my list is meet more people, talk to more people. Okay, so for me, the innate part of me as a woman is being able to communicate, to say things in partnership, in friendship, and not feeling I'm walking on eggshells, not feeling that I can't say what I want to say because it'll either be ignored, not heard, or dismissed. Okay, so if any of you do NLP, some of you might on the live, when we have something coming towards us, okay, it will be diluted, it will be generalized or dissolved. Yeah, so that's all our senses going out to meet the message, and then when it comes into us, we will do those three things. So we generalize it. Oh, that happens to everyone. Okay, actually it's deletion. We'll delete it because it's nothing to do with me. I don't want to hear it. Or we dissolve it. Actually, I'm not going to be part of it. So for me, that message that we give as the messenger needs to be really clear. It's not the person that's received the message that needs to actually understand it. If they say, I don't know what you're talking about, can you say it again with curiosity? So say it in a different way, because talking is really important. Okay, as self-talk, how we talk to ourselves, but also how you're talking to your partners. Yeah, or your friends, or your colleagues at work. Yeah. I think Esther Perel talks about, having conversations. She's not just talking about partnership. She's talking about colleagues at work, how you interact with people. It's all significant in the way that you put yourself across. So when we talk about, I did this today, actually, working from the worst of you, working from the best of you. Yeah. So there's, I'm just trying to, that's Harville Hendricks' work, maybe. I have to double check that. I always want to work from the best of me. Okay, so that would be soothing my own bruises, not expecting somebody else to do that for me. Okay, not reacting to somebody else's reactivity because they've gone up there and I'm down here. Okay, so if as a female in a partnership and your partner comes in and they're not okay, it doesn't mean that you have to go up to where they are. That's giving yourself over to the relationship too much. Yeah, so working from the best of you is like emotional regulation. What do I need to hold for myself, and what do I need to give back to my colleagues, my friendships, my partner? Going, not sure that's about me. Can we be more curious? It sounds like there's something else going on for you, but it sounds like you're projecting it onto me. We wouldn't say it like that. We'd say it sounds like you're blaming me, which then triggers them to start to attack more. I'm not blaming you. My wording is from a therapeutic process, but we wouldn't talk like that as a partnership. Yeah, so we've got to be really careful with the language that we use so that we can get a real good dialogue going on from one place to another. Any questions at all? Anybody want to come in with anything? What you're thinking, what you're feeling? How do you feel like, what does it feel like to be feminine? What does it feel like to be a female? I'm so glad I'm not a boy. I love being female. So I love the feminine side. I love all the stuff that we have. I love all of that. I want men to sit in a place of like, I love the masculine me, the, how I work, how I think, and that. But putting all that aside for a minute, how do we navigate the world with the process of being what that is? So I'm just sticking at the moment with same-sex couples, okay, and cisgender. obviously out there with the pronouns and everything, there's so much more to this, but I can't do that here, okay? But what we're looking at is tonight is what's it like to be female? Just have a think about it. I don't have to answer anything. What's it? Yeah, yeah. I sit in my sexuality really clearly about that. I really like who I've become. I like being female. I like all that goes with that. Okay. But the flip side to that is there is a vulnerability that we all, not doesn't matter about sexuality, there's a vulnerability that we all have from the place that we came from. And I'm not blaming parents, and the place that we are navigating to go. How do we get there? Because if you think about human beings, we are actually put on this earth, there's a suffering. Okay, we do. There's lots of things. People get ill, people die, people leave us. There's rejection and abandonment. I can go on and on and on. But actually, we are put on this earth because we're human. We can actually deal with some of that suffering. Okay. When we're talking about partnerships, what we're doing is actually, I don't want my partner to suffer. Okay. I want to be the authentic me meeting the authentic them in the relationship. Yeah. And being able to navigate that with it. Yeah. It's interesting talking about females. I found it easier to talk about men last week, which is interesting, even though I love to be a female. Why is that, I wonder? Is that because I think there's a lot of information about men, apart from the Andrea pause? When you think about in the past, men were really looked at, erectile dysfunction, all the sexual side of it, Masters and Johnson, all male therapists. Back in the day, it was very male orientated, and I, like a lot of people say, with the menopause and the different thing, I feel like we're lagging behind in that respect. And I'm not going to go about like wages or anything, but I'm talking about how we sort of like feel like they've done that and we're still doing that. Does that make sense? And I feel like it's really important to not be more powerful than men, but actually to hold that energy for ourselves, whatever that might be for you. Okay, I know that I've got masculine and feminine energy, and I'm okay with wherever that is. But actually sitting in that place of how do you feel about being female? What is it that's actually in your life? What do you feel that you've given up? Okay, because there will be some of that. What have I given up? What have I let go of that actually fundamentally I didn't put a boundary in? Okay, what is it about your sex life that actually it's okay and you are having sex, but is it the sex you want? Have a conversation about that. Yeah, because we need, and Esther Brown calls it the chore list and the kink list, which I absolutely adore. So the chore list will always be there for the rest of your life. You'll always have to wash your pants and wash your dishes and everything. But the kink list is the list that keeps the relationship fresh, not just for your relationship, for you as an individual. So self-pleasure, making sure you're okay, taking time out for yourself. So I notice there's a lot of women who are coming from this place of mental load. Okay. Now, whether they're putting that mental load on themselves because they feel that it's their responsibility sometimes, or their family of origin was actually, your work is to work, 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 don't relax, don't, do the chores, whatever the message is, there is something about burnout. There's something about not being able to hold the mental load. And I always say, who asked you to? Let's find out who asked you to hold, a lot of women are doing all the finances now, and that might be because maybe their partner did a bit of gambling, or there was some bills that weren't paid, or there was a traffic thing that didn't get paid, whatever it might be. Okay, then we go, I've got to scoop all that up. Now, nobody asked you to. Okay, so then we go, I've sacrificed myself. I've got all this time, I've got to do this instead. What we've got to do is negotiate with the partner and go, this is not acceptable. Where's the boundary? Yeah. If you can't hold it all, do direct debits. Find a way. We can do everything automated now. Find a different way so that you're not getting the mental load. Because I'll be honest, I'm a little bit worried about women at the moment. I feel like they feel like they are holding so much. And that is a worry to me, because I think there is part of us that doesn't want to hold that mental load as much as we are. And we need to find a way of communicating that, whether that's to family, because our family of origin as well will be maybe putting pressure on us as well. So we need to find out what that's about. Janet, did you want to say something? Can you take yourself off mute, Janet?
Sorry, I thought I had. I think I pressed the video twice. You asked a question a little while ago about, what our thoughts, and I'm stuck with this scenario. Not that I've experienced it yet, but scenario of a female that's lost their way, and they are stuck with injunctions. You shouldn't, you can't, you mustn't, and all this negative belief, and they're in front of you. And suddenly she feels empowered by the information you give her,
Yeah.
and she wants to effect change, but the partner isn't happy with it because he will then feel emancipated, but may feel emancipated. He may feel that it's his job to look after her, and she needs to ask him for what she needs, and he likes that role. So if the female then starts to change and starts to become empowered and loves this, how do you manage the male who may be very resistant to this and might start criticizing, stonewalling, you weren't like this before, and all of that? How do you navigate that? I'm just curious because I'm stuck with that scenario in my head.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're talking if I saw them as a couple. Yeah, yeah. So I'm hoping that change will occur if I'm seeing people. Okay. One of the things on my website, I think it says, I elicit change within couples. And what we'd be doing, so if they were together, he would be witness to the change. Okay. But what I do is tread carefully, because with assertiveness comes aggression. When we learn something new and we want to implement it, whether it's a boundary or whether we don't want to be spoken to like that again, okay, because we're not used to it, maybe we didn't have a voice or we're starting to learn something new, we actually say it quite aggressively because we're so excited that it feels really empowering that we suddenly go, don't speak to me like that. Well, what you're doing is you're doing something that probably they've mirrored to you anyway. They're fearful of the change. What you're doing is actually becoming too aggressive. Assertiveness has to come really slowly, otherwise it sounds aggressive. Okay, people pleasers start to change into people that have more boundaries. They start to have a voice, but they sound quite aggressive when they first start. Instead of saying, "Do you mind? I'm going to say no to that," they go, "No, I'm not coming." But it's like, all right. Well, I don't want to, and I've said no. So it's all a bit mad, okay? What we've got to do is slow it right the way down. And if they're in this room together, you can actually see, what are you witnessing? What are you witnessing that they've just said that actually I don't want to be that anymore? Or they're not going to suddenly not be it. What they've got to do is repetition, okay? Saying no again and again is repetition. No, thank you for the invite, but I'm actually not going to come. Or no, I don't like it when that language is said to me. Please don't do that again. So repetition is the art of being able to embed it in your own brain and being able to then get the other person to listen. Repetition is listening. Again, if they don't get it first time, they will get it again and again. Does that make sense? So that loss, I'm getting a lot of women who come and see me with the loss of identity. Okay, they've nurtured the children, they've nurtured the relationship. They feel like they're completely lost now without the identity. Mother is an identity. It's something we do. Okay, it's not who we are, if that makes sense. So we've got to find that identity again by doing the value systems. When we come to therapy, one person they will be like that, if you can see that. One person will sort of run ahead and go, I love this. I love the feeling of it. I love it. And the other person would go, I'm not so keen on you changing. I'm not sure about that. What I encourage the other person who's slightly a bit hesitant to go, what's happening for you? What would you be able to facilitate with that change, or your own? Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah. So what we're
Absolutely, yeah.
What we're trying to do, we are not asking our partner for permission for anything. They are not our parents. I don't like it when people go, is it okay if I go out? What, you're 12? No, you're not 12. You're grown up. I'm thinking about going to this Caribbean night. It's on the 14th of November. I just wondered what you were doing. And they go, I'm not actually doing anything. Would you want to come? Or do you want to do your own thing? We're not saying, is it okay if I go out? Or is it okay if I go out with my girlfriends? That's what we would say to a mum or a dad. Ask permission. Okay. And it's very, what's the word? It's very disempowering to be asking permission. You're not just exiting and doing loads of things. This is just an activity you've decided to do. If it's something you want to do on your own, the Caribbean night is with some friends, you say, this is a me thing. What are you thinking of doing? As women, sometimes we go to the defensive part and we go, I need to try and find something for you because I'm doing my own thing. They're not babies. We aren't either. We don't need to be, oh, shall I find out if your mates want to go out with you? Or go out with your mates. Go out with your friends. And that we feel guilty. I think one of the things I said on here, and I didn't read it out, is what guilt do we hold when we're trying to do things for ourselves? And how often do we do things for ourselves above our partner and children? And I think that's really important. If we don't get downtime to actually go, my stuff, we don't come back in renewed at all. Some of my clients will go off without the children and have little tiny weekends, and they come back really renewed. They've renewed each other, they've got what they wanted from each other, and they come back completely different. And good coupling makes good parenting.
So it really does come come down to communication, as you said right at the beginning. If they've never had those conversations, as the changes occur, they need to start having those conversations and checking in with one another.
Absolutely, yeah. And that is a skill. It's a skill. Having a conversation is a skill. I know people think that's really weird when you can just talk to somebody. We feel like we can't, even if it's a work colleague and they've upset us a little bit, or they've trodden on our toes and they took something that we thought was ours. We can sit in an anxiety place and go, well, I really need to speak to that. Or what should I say? You've worked with them for 15 years and you still hesitate to go, it really upset me when you took that because I thought it was mine. Yeah, so it's the same in relationships. We are hesitant to actually, we're walking on eggshells. Shall I rock the boat? Shall I say something, especially sexually or money orientated? We will always have this part of us that thinks, shall I? Absolutely, yes. And what we want to do is say to our partner, I want to speak to you about money tonight, or I want to speak to you about us getting closer. Don't let it be a surprise. Don't tell I want to speak to you at 7 o'clock tonight. Their brain will be like, oh God, why? If they go something like, what have I done? They're in victim. So you're already starting off with a really bad place to start. Tell them what it's about. Prep them. I just want to talk about us, our connection. I feel like a bit lost. Can we talk about it tonight? Yeah, there shouldn't be fear in a relationship. There's fear at the beginning because we're frightened of losing that person. Okay. If the relationship is sustainable and we have enough communication, that fear shouldn't be there on a continuous basis. We're not staying in the power struggle. Okay. And I think, if we think about women for a minute, I feel like we are staying in the power struggle as individually. Yeah, we need to make sure that actually as individuals, as females, we're not staying in that power struggle too long. Am I good enough? Am I lovable? How can I navigate my identity? Where am I going? What do I need? All of these are such important questions. Yeah, because you're an I first. I want to get on the top of the highest building and shout this out. You are an I first choosing to be in a relationship. Yeah, it's so, so important. And if you lose that identity, you then merge with your partner. It's almost like, this enmeshment, there's gaps. So you and your partner can do this. There's a wave that comes about. If you're like this, it can't move. And somebody's controlling someone. And it's not healthy. I see us in partnership in two boats going towards the same shore. And I might say to my partner, do you want to get in my boat for a little while? And he might say, do you want to come to my boat? We're in separate boats to begin with. Yeah. And that's how we're supposed to be, in separate boats. We're going to end in a minute. Is there any questions before? And thank you, Janet, for that question. In my mind, I was thinking I was seeing the female on her own. So it would be very hard to navigate the partner whose partner's coming and growing within therapy. And then they go home and they've got all these new ideas and they're feeding them without any process for the partner, which is very frightening. really frightening. So we need to be mindful of that, of how it's navigated and how slow they need. If they're in the therapy session together, we can navigate that together.
I did have that scenario with the female, and I said, but you've got to be aware that they haven't experienced this. So you need to navigate that really slowly and gently.
Yeah.
And it will be a surprise to them, but they didn't. They went home and went, I don't like the way you speak to me. That's not acceptable. And they were completely blown away when the partner said, what's gotten into you? You know, why are you behaving like this? Because for 20 odd years, they've never, ever challenged anything. And it's like, you know,
Yeah.
and then it
But
was
there's
like,
a
well, that
fear.
didn't work. And you think, well, it kind of did because he listened, but you've got to
Yeah.
ease yourself into it.
Well, the fear is I'm not going to be able to say it.
Yes.
What we do is we completely say it like a bleh right on top of and they're going, and instead of saying, what are you okay? It's like, what's the matter with you? Like there's something now wrong with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Not growth, it's something wrong with you. Why are you weird? Okay. What we need to go is prep, set the scene. I've been to therapy. This is what was said. This is what I've gleaned from it, or my takeaway, and I now want to share it with you slowly. And let's take some time for this. We mustn't do this regurgitation of going, I've learned this tonight and this is what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter what you think, I'm doing it. It
No,
doesn't.
I do agree. There's not enough about female and our changes, our 7 changes. I love that. I think I've had all 7 now. But yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, it's been really helpful. It's been a brilliant workshop. Thank you. Or webinar.
And I love that we do have 7 changes, because I think the evolution of us is so, so important. We are so vital. And I do love that meme that I saw about, happy children come from a happy mother. And I'm not we're talking about women. I'm not ever disputing men at all. Okay, there's some fantastic fathers out there, but there's something about that nurture in some, not all, being able to hold that space for ourselves, being happy. There's no such thing as happier. We need to stop saying the IER all the time. You're happy is now. Okay, mental health is now, and it's our responsibility to look after our own and enhance it in a relationship. When we go in and we go, I'm here for you to make me happy or to be this to me, we've got codependency. And that erodes after a while, because one person goes, I can't hold you anymore. I'm off. Thank you so much for attending. I don't really want to end on we're off. We have. I don't even know where we're going to end. It's been lovely to see you all. Thank you for your contribution. This will be put out on the live, but thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you next month. I'll be in Spain then, guys, so I will see you from there.
Thanks, Em. Bye.
Thanks, Lottie.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you so much.